After Thomas delivered the trucks, Sir Topham had ordered Diesel 10's spattering dogs to take the trucks to the quarry for the rest of the week. The Diesels weren't very pleased. One day, Murdoch was carrying a heavy train full of goods and miscellaneous stuff. It was very heavy and very uncomfortable for Murdoch, despite the fact that he could pull like tons of cars by himself. Okay, not really. Anyways, so Murdoch was puffing out Gordon's Hill, stopped for a bit. Then he kept puffing along, and then he stalled. "I'm afraid we're going to have to get some help," said his driver. At that moment, Hank came along. He's a very strong engine and could help anyone. He then buffered up to the back of Murdoch's train. "Are you ready, Murdoch?" said Hank. "I think so," said Murdoch. And soon, the engines began puffing. They puffed their hardest, and finally they managed to get the train over to the other side of the hill. Ned and Jack were there and congratulated them. Harold also congratulated him as well. Terence was amazed and whistled as loud as he could. Same with Trevor. He was very emulated by this. Okay, not really. Elizabeth was very happy. George became very happy as well. Bertie was so surprised he nearly fell off the road. Baldy, well, he just thought it was amazing. Soon all the other engines came by and whistled to Hank and Murdoch for their hard-working efforts. Edward and Rocky were very surprised. "Way to go, you two," said Edward. "I'm very impressed in the both of you," said Rocky, as they disappeared into the valley. Toby and Henrietta were even more surprised when they saw the result. Soon, everyone was back to work. It was a busy day, and everyone had to get their jobs done. There was supposed to be an exciting announcement that Sir Topham Hatt did not want to disappoint all his engines. The Diesels were very jealous with Murdoch and Hank, so they ignored him and continued about their work. Harvey was most impressed. The twins, Donald and Douglas, were just even more speechless. Mavis was absolutely shocked. Molly was even more surprised. Same with Rosie. Rick, Bill and Ben, Stafford, and Salty were amazed with Hank and Murdoch's combined efforts. Lady almost fell off the rails in amazement. Billy was epic. Spencer was surprised. Henry was shocked. Duck was proud. Thomas whistled them to both of them as he passed by with Annie and Clarabelle. Even the narrow gauge railway engines, Scarloey, Proteus, Duke, Fearless Freddy, Sir Handel, Rusty and Linnaeus, they were even happy with their efforts. Especially good old Neville, who was puffing by with the passenger train and whistled things gleefully as he passed by. George, who usually pulled the express, whistled to them in complimentary style. And then, at the end of the day, Murdoch thanked Hank, Hank thanked Murdoch. They both said goodbye, and they headed back to the shed. Back at the sheds, they were all waiting for Sir Topham Hatt's big announcement. They were anxious to see what it was. And then, Sir Topham Hatt arrived in Elizabeth. Engines, vehicles, and all, I have a very important announcement to make. 2 engines are expected to arrive on Soto tomorrow. Treat them warmly. One of them's a little suspicious. And he puffed back home. The engines were all excited and wondering what the new arrivals would be. I maybe think it's City of Truro, said Henry. Don't be silly, said Gordon. It would never be City of Truro. He's busy. Then Gordon heard a familiar whistle. It can't be. Then he saw 2 familiar green tenders back right in front of him. Gordon knew who it was. As the sight came closer into view, the engines were surprised to see Flying Scotsman back in front of their sheds. Flying Scotsman! Why, hello, Gordon. How are you doing, my fine Caledonian twin? I'm not Caledonian, what are you, silly? I'm Doncaster. Don't you remember? Oh, yes, times have changed. I'm thinking of Donald and Douglas. Anyways, I wonder how everything's going. Things have gone well, said Gordon. Excellent, said Scotsman. Then, as they were beginning to have a conversation, they heard a familiar diesel horn. A familiar blue diesel came into view. He was not pleased. The engines looked up. Ah, yes, hello. Why isn't it old Henry? Oh, yes. Oh, you. Ah, yes, well, if it isn't old Reliable here. What a pervert you are. Don't call me that. And don't remind me of that failure. Ah, you deserved it. Your accomplice was more kind than you were. Oh, don't be silly, said Spamcam. You are nothing. You take that back, snapped Henry. That is not nice to say to a steam engine like us. Me neither, said Doc. You take that back. You're rude. And the engines began whistling and swearing profanities until it was silenced. The engine was still fuming when the diesel left. Well, I say, he's a very rude fellow. He is, said Henry. We need to pay him out. The proper way, said Doc. The Great Western way, for that matter. To say such things to us, cried Donald and Douglas. It's to teach him a lesson to be wanted, but how do we do it? They didn't know how, but their chance would soon come the next day. Next day, Henry pulled into Wellsworth. He saw D199 in the siding. Hello there, Spamcan, said Henry. What are you up to? Oh, nothing. I'm just waiting for my next train, or first one, actually. Well, just saying this, but one day you could have a come-up-us. Spamcam took this in as an offense and popped away to the station and back down onto his train. I'll show that Henry who's boss. He may have pulled me and a few tankers, but this is the last of it. Gordon and Flying Scotsman were watching. They knew what was going to happen. Careful, said Gordon. Yes, careful, said Flying Scotsman. Don't want to be in an accident today. Oh, don't be silly, said Spamcam, but he said it to himself. Then 119 pulled out of the station, and then he stalled. Ha 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 ha, said the engines. Pah, said Spamcam. I'll show you both. Then he restarted and popped along with the train. B199 was making up good time, but the coaches were being treated rudely and disrespectfully by him. Then they stopped at a station. It was almost time for them to go. Come on, said D199's driver. It's best to go back now. Then they popped up the hill. The coaches decided to play a trick. Hold them back, said the coaches. Oh, don't pull that Stupid shit again, said Spam Can. But then, it happened. The coupling broke from Spam Can, and he was heading down the hill. Oh no, said Spam Can. What's going on? He didn't know what was going to happen next. The tracks ahead of him were separated, and it was separated between him and the rest of the line. Spam Can closed his eyes, and the coach banged into him, throwing him off the rails. Spam Can was derailed. Ha 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 ha, said Gordon. That teached you from last night. It sure did, said Flying Scotsman. You truly deserve that. Then Sir Topham Hatt spoke severely to him. I do not like your behavior last night, and I do not like your behavior tonight. You have caused a disturbance. The workmen came to fix the mended line, and Henry took Spam Can and the coaches home. Then it was time for Flying Scotsman to go. The engines all said goodbye and farewell. Goodbye, Flying Scotsman, said Gordon. Doncaster forever. Ah, yes, forever indeed, said Flying Scotsman. Forever, indeed forever. And then he puffed away, back home to London. And what about old D199? Well, he slunk when no one was looking. He said goodbye to no one, but left two things behind: a rather nasty smell and a broken section of track.